definitely preferable to this.
Do you think they should just give it a dusting and add in his son?
It wouldn't make any difference. In my opinion, they could have Hulk Hogan, the Ultimate Warrior, Ric Flair, Lex Luger, and daggum Frank Gotch could come back from the grave, and it wouldn't make any difference as long as TBS owns the thing. No.
How to use them whatsoever.
I'd like to pose a question to Mr. Thesz. Lou, you've, of course, have had a great career in the professional wrestling business. What, in your opinion, how do you see WCW and the NWA, the great tradition it once had, and now trying to copy World Wrestling Federation, forget histories of different champions? I'd like to get your views on what's happened in that organization.
Nothing working.
No.
All right. I'll try to speak loud enough so that you can hear me. Can you hear me? Okay. One of the problems, we have many problems in wrestling today, is overexposure. People can see more wrestling on television today than in the history of our so-called sport. It used to be a sport. But with the saturation and with the wilder and the crazier things that the guys are doing, and the physical end of it, I think the guys are doing a great job. But the fantasy and the cartoons that they're drawing for the people and milking them and running a soap opera instead of promoting wrestling does not behoove good wrestling promotion, and it's not going to help us. I think the only thing that could really save us, and I'm old enough now, that I've gone through 2 or 3 eras of wrestling when we were down in the doldrums and came back. Oh, something always happened to regenerate us. Well, that hasn't happened now, of course, and I'm a little bit late. I predicted several years ago, maybe 8 or 10 years ago, that we're going to have a resurgence of wrestling. That hasn't happened. But I don't think it's going to happen until our saturation has gotten to the point that the people are not interested in watching it on TV at all. And when they get down in the doldrums low enough that they're not making any money, they're going to have to re-educate their people, which they've already done, to re-educate the people to watch, witness, and sometimes pay to see this garbage. Well, that's reaching a screeching halt now. As Jim and John pointed out, the house shows are dying on the vine. And with the tremendous exposure these people have with 2 major and cable and whatever networks, they are still not drawing it in the houses normally. And until business gets bad enough that they are actually like getting starved out, they're going to have to re-educate the people and get back to wrestling like Mr. Cornette said, and give them some semblance of what we call it. We call it wrestling, but they're doing everything but wrestling promotion. And until we get a little credibility back and actually have some wrestlers that can do the job and are promoted properly, and so that the fellow that can wrestle does not have to wear a dunce suit to get out there and be paid by the office, it's not going to get any better, because it's getting to the ridiculous point that our credibility is at a very, very low ebb. There are some good wrestlers out there, but they are not permitted to do the things that they know how to do. And that's the problem. We have a promotional problem. We've had some before, nothing nearly as severe as this. And the monster that we call TV today regenerated wrestling after the Gorgeous George era and during that time. But now it's consumed us. And the people in the television business are really running our business. We're not in the wrestling business anymore. We're in the television business. And we don't own it. The television companies own it. And that's the problem today. We've been taken over and dominated by a sport, dominated by the people that control us through television. And the reason they can do this so inexpensively, wrestling is very easy to shoot. God, you get a 2 or 3 camera technique years ago, it used to be 1. You can shoot this ring and you don't have a problem. Running like a horse race or an automobile race or something is difficult and expensive. But wrestling is still cheaper to produce, and they have taken over our business. Until we can circumvent that and get back to wrestling, re-educate our people, get back to wrestling, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen until they get starved out and they're not making any money. That's my opinion. Thank you.
then you got into promotion, you succeed, you bring in good stars, people have good times at your shows. Tell everybody, just in a nutshell, how you get your shows promoted and you stay in business.
I'm a fan. There are no wrestling fans in the wrestling business anymore. If you look at Ted Turner and Jim Herd and that whole crew, they're not wrestling fans, they're businessmen, they're suits, they're people sitting behind a desk looking at a budget and bottom line. There are no fans. I think the reason that this business is hurting is that you folks out here are not getting involved in the business more. When I was just a fan, I would go to the matches, one thing led to another, got involved in the business. If a fan would get involved in the business, people like Jim Herd could never come along and take over, my opinion. When I book matches that I would like to see. I've created a niche that I think there are others who would like to see the same kind of matches that I want to see. And the type of wrestling that we do in the TWA can't be seen anywhere else. I've said all along that most promotions coming along today just give you more of the same. We overdose here, all right? We go outside the ring in just about every match. It's pure and simple violence on our card. We've got Jim Cornette getting violent on our card, okay?
And boy, is that horrible.
Okay. I think the total reality here is that when you look at the condition of the business, there are wrestling fans, people who are hardcore fans who would love to kind of create some direction in this business, aren't involved. I think it's that simple.
Isn't that just a small percentage of the audience?
Quite possible.
Very small.
I think the reality here is there are people in this room that would love to be referees. There's people in this room that would love to be promoters. There are people in this room that would love nothing more than help set up a ring before a show. There are people in this room who would love to be press photographers and do this kind of thing day in and day out. When I was in the insurance investment business and got out a year and a half ago, I've been able to create a livelihood and start to make some real money. And a lot of that is just wanting to do it. I think the reality is, like I always tell people, that promotion is 2/3 motion. And I think that's the reality. You just got to get up your butt and do it. And if a lot of you would direct your energies that you're directing, even in this room, to kind of protesting against what WCW is doing, etc., if you would just stop going to the matches, if that's the way of getting your word across, or there's plenty of room for independence up in the New York area, North Jersey, South, there's plenty of room everywhere. Okay? Get yourself involved. Try to start a promotion. See if you can bring it. I mean, you know, the independent promoters don't do anything different than anybody else could do if they simply get on a telephone, make the right connections, and do it. So I just think fans have to get involved. Fans have to get in the front row again.
Kenny?
Yeah, Joe, do you think you could put on a show like you put on in Pennsylvania, in New York, with the New York State Athletic Commission? And what is the difference between the Pennsylvania State Athletic Commission and New York State Athletic Commission?
There is no Pennsylvania State Athletic. The Commission of Pennsylvania very simply bonds or license the promoter. The promoter has to carry a bond. We're required to have a doctor and an ambulance. But generally speaking, we don't have the kind of promotion or the commission that you have in New York. Yes, if we came to New York, we'd have to do things a little differently, but we'd still get it done. I think, again, wherever you put a card on, we wrestle in Maryland, we wrestle in Delaware, where the commissions are stronger than Pennsylvania. We wrestle in New Jersey, and in one case, we had the New Jersey doctor stop one of our matches because it was too violent, which was fine, because what that does is, in effect, endorses our product that we are a little different than the next guys. If we come to New York, and when we come to New York, we'll put on a product, and we'll get as close to what we can do as possible. Where they stop us, they stop us. But that's why the people in New York have to come down to Philly to see some of the best violence in the world, and which is fine by me. We have the September 21st card. We've got a bus coming down from New York. We've got a bus coming up from Baltimore. We've got people flying in from California, from Connecticut, from Rhode Island, from Virginia. I'm becoming a travel agent, booking some people flying into the city to see this stuff. If Philadelphia's the last place to see it, come on down.
Or Puerto Rico.
Or,
Can I
find that people are turning to your promotion because they're fed up with the major promotion?
I don't know why they're turning to promotion, but they're turning in record numbers. And I can, the key here is, if you think back even 3 shows, I guess 9 months ago, when we had Abdul the Butcher versus the original Sheik. This was a match that I promised on the radio 4, 5, 6 years ago, whatever it was. Here was the original Sheik, who's in his late 60s, going against Abdul in the late 40s. My main event had 2 guys with a total age of about 120, and it was one of the largest independent cards ever. And we're bringing him back September 21st in a barbed wire steel cage match, and my advance is 60 to 70% ahead of what my last show was.
Hey, Joe, let me tell you where it's at, brother.
I went to the movies about 4 months ago. They had George C. Scott with Marlon Brando, and the place was packed.
Can I say something? Wait a minute. Let me say something about what Joel said. I gotta agree. He has some dynamite cards, but this whole thing is not about how violent wrestling can be. That is what the people in Philadelphia want. But the whole point is, you could take a match that Lou Thesz wrestled, or that Buddy Rogers wrestled, or that they wrestled against each other in St. Louis, where nobody used a closed fist, and it was a heck of a daggum athletic contest, and it sold the place out. And you're not seeing that anymore either. The fact is, nobody wants to see Brian Pillman wearing a Chiquita Banana outfit. Nobody wants to see Brad Armstrong with feathers sticking out from under his armpits. They want to see people wrestle. Whether they're bleeding or not bleeding, they want to see them wrestle. They want to see something they can believe in. I asked Jim Hurd this one time. I said, do you like to go to football games? He said, yeah. I said, who's your favorite team? He said, the Raiders or somebody. I said, every time you go see them, you can, right? Oh, yeah, absolutely. I said, you always want to see them win. He said, right. I said, okay, how many times a year you go to see the circus? I said, once. I said, after that, you get tired of it, right? I said, yeah. I said, there you go. People only want to see a show once in a while, but people want to see athletics all the time because they don't know what's going to happen, and they don't know who's going to win, and they enjoy that, whether it's violence or whatever.
Yeah, the problem was you didn't spell it out for him clear enough. I mean, you said that and everyone in this room understood, but he probably didn't even know what you meant.
No, he had no. Well, he's still working on being able to hit the ground with his hat. He can't do that.
I think everybody wants to know, does John Arezzi go to Nutrisystem or not? I know I do, for Christ's sake.
Tell us about Andre the Giant.
He's rough to hell room with, I'll tell you that. Myself, funny you should ask, I grew up here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, of course, by way of New York City. I don't know why I'm talking to this mic right a goddamn mic here. Very hollow, just like marriages sometimes, not there. Very hollow. That's why I should have been a truck driver. Screw all this goddamn wrestling. But I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and my biggest idol was Buddy Rogers, you know. When I was a young guy growing up, and I'm not going way back now, I'm just going back a little bit. Buddy Rogers was my idol. That's the guy I like. Yeah, guys like him and Johnny Valentine come on the tube. Boy, I was right there every Saturday night. What I'm getting at is, you'd be surprised. It takes somebody sometimes to plant a seed. You know, whether it's education or law enforcement or politics or whatever, or life. It takes somebody to inspire you. And I know goddamn well when I was a young-ass wrestler down there wrestling in Tampa, there was a guy out there twanging a guitar in the front row. It was Hulk Hogan. And he's come up to me so many times and said, you and Jimmy Valiant was the guys that inspired me. So you see, things are, it just keeps going on and going on, kind of a snowball type effect. But whether it's good guys or bad, or whether you believe in it or not, I'll tell you one thing, it's entertainment. Because reality is entertainment. You know, you may have the Valachi papers, you may have Watergate, you may have the coup, most recently in Moscow. It's entertainment.